Hiring developers. Welcome back to today's session. Today we are going to learn about array methods, where we are going to learn about the shift, the pop, the unshift, and the push, where the pop and the push deal with the last part of the array, the shift and the unshift deal with the first part of the array. So if you are ready for today's session, let's dive right in.
Yeah, so today we're going to learn about the two array methods, that is the pop and the push, the pop and the push. And we're going to start with the pop. So let me just type in there pop. First I'll begin by declaring an array. So let's say let numbers equals numbers, I mean a lot of them. Can say equals 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So there we have a numbers array with even numbers between 0 and 10. Then now the pop method is used to remove the last element in the array. So this is the last element in the array, and that is what the pop will remove. So when you just call numbers and say dot pop, so first you can start by logging to the console the value of numbers. So console.log numbers. You see that we have a number with 5 items, that is 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. But after you pop and then you now log to the console the new value of numbers. So console.log the new value of numbers. Yeah, you're going to see that the new value of numbers has 4 items, that is 2, 4, 6 and 8. So 10 has been removed from the array, and that is what the pop function does. So when applied to an array, it alters the array in place by removing the element at the highest index. So you know that the highest index is always the array.length, array in our case here numbers.length, then minus 1. So this is the value that is being removed. Yes, so it is also important to note that the method returns the removed element. So you can save the value of this element in a variable. So let's say let popped equals numbers.pop. So if you now log to the console popped, you're going to see the value of the popped variable. Yeah, so let's run the script. You see that we have 10 being logged to the console as the value that has been popped, and that was the last item in our array. Yeah, so if the array is empty, then the .pop value is going to return undefined. Now let's just do that, then we run the script again. Yeah, you see that the .pop returns undefined. So that's it for the pop method. It can be very important when you want to deal with the last item in an array. Yeah, so we can leave it at that. Then we can learn something on push. Yeah, so on push, the push method adds an element to the end of an array. The method takes an argument. That argument will be the value of the value which is being added, and then it can be a number, string, an object, or even another array. So we have our numbers array there. Let's define another array. Say let array equals this time we can pass in names. So we can say HTML, CSS, also we can pass in JS. Maybe you can pass in something like React. Yeah, so we have our array here. Okay, instead you can just call them okay, you can call them, yeah, you can just say let array equals HTML, CSS, JS, and React. So now we want to test the dot push method of the array. As we said, the dot push method takes one argument, so array dot push will take one argument, and that sorry, not one argument, but takes an argument of the value that you want to pass to that array. So if at all you want to add the fifth element here as let's say angular, so you just say array dot push angular, and you can log to the console the value of the array before you push. So console.log array. Then you can also log to the console the value after you push. So console.log array. So if you run the script, you see that the first one has 4 items, that is HTML, CSS, JS, and React. But after you call the dot push and you pass in Angular, it returns HTML, CSS, JS, React, and Angular. But Angular is appended to as the last item in that array. So as we said, dot push can also add an object or a list, or even an object or a string, or even another array. So that one we've pushed a string. We can also push an object. So let's say array.push. This time we're going to push an object. The object will have the key of name and the value of Georges. It can also have another key of age and the value of 10. We can call array.push once again and pass in a list. Now say a list of what can we say, list with maybe coffee. Yeah, apart from coffee we can have the coffee as a string, sorry. We can have a number, so maybe coffee is 200. Yeah. So now let's rerun the script so that we see the changes that that does to our array. So you notice that our new array known as which is still the array, takes in the new object and adds it to our array, and it also takes another array and appends it to the array. So that is how the dot push works. You can still have a look at this from the terminal. Okay. Yeah, so when you look at this from the terminal, you notice that we have that first array. This was the one on numbers. Then we also have this array with only 4 items where we added Angular by calling the array.push. We also added an object. You see that the object is also added to that array, and we also have a new array also added inside that array. So now we know that the dot push is used to add elements to the end of the list of an array. So yeah, that's it on the array.pop and the array.push method. The first element from an array. You notice that in the previous video we tackled the push and the pop, and you saw that the push and the pop were adding and removing elements from the end of the array. So the shift and the unshift will be doing those changes in the beginning of the array. So the shift method removes the first element from an array. If the array is blank, then it simply returns undefined. So you remember here we had a numbers array. Let us just call the unshift on that numbers array. So we say numbers array numbers dot shift, and then we can log to the console the new value of numbers. We see that something is undefined. Coffee. Sorry, this was from the previous code. This was something like that. Yeah, now we can just rerun the script. Let me minimize the screen a bit. And now you notice that okay, you can just add some explanatory codes for us to understand what the console is trying to communicate to us. Yeah, so I'm going to pass here the shift. Yeah, so the shift removes the first element of the array. You notice that this array initially had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but when we called the pop, we remember that the pop removes the last element from the array. So shift does the opposite of kinda the opposite of pop, because it removes the first element from the array. Similarly to the push, which was adding elements to the end of the array, we also have the dot unshift to add elements at the beginning. It adds one or more elements at the beginning of the array. So we can still call the dot unshift on the array that you had initialized as array the previous session. So just say array dot unshift, and you already know that the push was taking values, so the unshift is also going to take values that you want to pass to the array, and it accepts the data types of list, string, it accepts the integers, it accepts the boolean values. So you can just say array.shift true. You can also shift maybe a string, say I have been added, and you can also unshift or rather add another value, let's say 100. So when you now call the console.log, when you call the console.log on our array variable and you run the script, you notice that from our terminal we have true being added, then I have been added, we also have 100, and now we have our initial array which had HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So here was our initial array where we predefined it. Then we now call the dot unshift, and you notice that it adds these 3 values of 3 different data types to our array. So it can also add an array, just like the dot push was adding several data types to the end of the initial array. So this can also add several data types to the beginning of the array. So if you rerun the script, you see that we have an array being passed, an array of 3. Then we also have the other elements that we were having there, and then to close it off we have another array of 2 at the end. So the dot push is the one that adds it to the end, and the dot unshift adds elements to the beginning of the array. So that is how the pop, the push, the shift and the unshift works.